Hello, dear friends. Today is Walt Whitman's birthday. And more than a man, more than a poet, he's a noble soul that I respect and love very much. And his book, Leaves of Grass, particularly the prologue, is my guidebook on how to be a good American. I'm going to share with you the first 12 minutes of his prologue, and you're going to find out why.
Come, said my soul, such verses for my body let us write, for we are one, that should I after death invisibly return, or long, long hence, in other spheres, there to some group of mates, the chance resuming, tallying earth's soil, trees, winds, tumultuous waves, ever with pleased smile I may keep on, ever and ever yet the verses owning, as first I here and now, signing for soul and body, set to them my name, Walt Whitman. America does not repel the past, or what it has produced under its forms, or amid other politics, or the idea of castes, or the old religions, accepts the lesson with calmness, is not so impatient as has been supposed, that the slough still sticks to opinions and manners and literature, while the life which served its requirements has passed into the new life of the new forms, perceives that the corpse is slowly born from the eating and sleeping rooms of the house, perceives that it waits a little while in the door, that it was fittest for its days, that its action is descended to the stalwart and well-shaped heir who approaches, and that he shall be fittest for his days. The Americans of all nations at any time upon the earth have probably the fullest poetical nature. The United States themselves are essentially the greatest poem. In the history of the earth, hitherto, the largest and most stirring appear tame and orderly to their ampler largeness and stir. Here, at last, is something in the doings of man that corresponds with the broadcast doings of the day and night. Here is not merely a nation, but a teeming nation of nations. Here is action untied from strings necessarily blind to particulars and details magnificently moving in vast masses. Here's the hospitality which forever indicates heroes. Here are the ruffs and beards and space and ruggedness and nonchalance that the soul loves. Here, the performance disdaining the trivial unapproached and the tremendous audacity of its crowds and groupings, and the push of its perspective spreads with crampless and flowing breadth and showers its prolific and splendid extravagance. One sees it must indeed own the riches of the summer and winter, and need never be bankrupt, while corn grows from the ground, or the orchards drop apples, or the bays contain fish, or men beget children upon women. Other states indicate themselves in their deputies, but the genius of the United States is not best or most in its executives or legislatures, nor in its ambassadors or authors or colleges or churches or parlors, nor even in its newspapers or inventors, but always most in the common people. Their manners, speech, dress, friendships, the freshness and candor of their physiognomy, the picturesque looseness of their carriage, their deathless attachment to freedom, their aversion to anything indecorous or soft or mean, the practical acknowledgment of the citizens of one state by the citizens of all other states, the fierceness of their roused resentment, their curiosity and welcome of novelty, their self-esteem and wonderful sympathy, their susceptibility to a slight. The air they have of persons who never knew how it felt to stand in the presence of superiors, the fluency of their speech, their delight in music, the sure symptom of manly tenderness and native elegance of soul, their good temper and open-handedness, the terrible significance of their elections, the president's taking off his hat to them, not they to him. These too are unrhymed poetry. It awaits the gigantic and generous treatment worthy of it. The largeness of nature or the nation were monstrous without a corresponding largeness and generosity of the spirit of the citizen. Not nature, nor swarming states, nor streets and steamships, nor prosperous business, nor farms, nor capital, nor learning may suffice for the ideal of man, nor suffice the poet. No reminiscences may suffice either. A live nation can always cut a deep mark, and can have the best authority the cheapest, namely from its own soul. This is the sum of the profitable uses of individuals or states, and of present action and grandeur, and of the subjects of poets. As if it were necessary to trot back generation after generation to the Eastern records, as if the beauty and sacredness of the demonstrable must fall behind that of the mythical, as if men do not make their mark out of any times, as if the opening of the Western continent by discovery and what has transpired since in North and South America were less than the small theater of the antique, or the aimless sleepwalking of the Middle Ages. The pride of the United States leaves the wealth and finesse of the cities, and all the returns of commerce and agriculture, and all the magnitude of geography, or shows of exterior victory, to enjoy the breed of full-sized men, or one full-sized man, unconquerable and simple. The American poets are to enclose old and new, for America is the race of races. Of them a bard is to be commensurate with a people. To him the other continents arrive as contributions. He gives them reception for their sake and his own sake. His spirit responds to his country's spirit. He incarnates its geography and natural life, and rivers and lakes. Mississippi, with annual freshets and changing chutes, Missouri and Columbia and Ohio and St. Lawrence, with the falls and beautiful masculine Hudson, do not embouchure where they spend themselves more than they embouchure into him. The blue breadth over the inland sea of Virginia and Maryland, and the sea off Massachusetts and Maine, and over Manhattan Bay, and over Champlain and Erie, and over Ontario and Huron, and Michigan and Superior, and over the Texan and Mexican and Floridian and Cuban seas, and over the seas off California and Oregon, is not tallied by the blue breadth of the waters below, more than the breadth of above and below is tallied by him. When the long Atlantic coast stretches longer, and the Pacific coast stretches longer, he easily stretches with them north or south. He spans between them also from east to west, and reflects what is between them. On him rise solid growths that offset the growths of pine and cedar and hemlock and live oak and locust and chestnut and cypress and hickory and lime tree and cottonwood and tulip tree and cactus and wild vine and tamarind and persimmon, and tangles as tangled as any cane brake or swamp, and forests coated with transparent ice, and icicles hanging from the boughs and crackling in the wind, and sides and peaks of mountains, and pasturage sweet and free as savanna or upland or prairie, with flights and songs and screams that answer those of the wild pigeon and high-holed, and orchard oriole, and coot and surf duck, and red-shouldered hawk, and fish hawk, and white ibis, and Indian hen, and cat owl, and water pheasant, and quaw bird, and pied sheldrake, and blackbird, and mockingbird, and buzzard, and condor, and night heron, and eagle. To him the hereditary countenance descends both mothers and fathers. To him enter the essences of the real things, and past and present events, of the enormous diversity of temperature and agriculture and mines, the tribes of red aborigines, the weather-beaten vessels entering new ports, or making landings on rocky coasts, the first settlements north or south, the rapid stature and muscle, the haughty defiance of '76, and the war and peace and formation of the Constitution. The Union always surrounded by blatherers, and always calm and impregnable. The perpetual coming of immigrants, the wharf-hemmed cities and superior marine, the unsurveyed interior, the log houses and clearings and wild animals and hunters and trappers, the free commerce, the fisheries and whaling and gold digging, the endless gestation of new states, the convening of Congress every December, the members duly coming up from all climates and the uttermost parts, the noble character of the young mechanics, and of all free American workmen and workwomen, the general ardor and friendliness and enterprise, the perfect equality of the female with the male, the large amativeness, the fluid movement of the population, the factories and mercantile life and labor-saving machinery, the Yankee swap, the New York fireman and the Target excursion, the Southern plantation life, the character of the Northeast and of the Northwest and Southwest, slavery and the tremulous spreading of hands to protect it, and the stern opposition to it which shall never cease till it ceases, or the speaking of tongues and the moving of lips cease. For such, the expression of the American poet is to be transcendent and new. It is to be indirect, and not direct or descriptive or epic. Its quality goes through these to much more. Let the age and wars of other nations be chanted, and their eras and characters be illustrated, and that finish the verse. Not so the great psalm of the Republic. Here the theme is creative and has vista. Here comes one among the well-beloved stone cutters, and plans with decision and science, and sees the solid and beautiful forms of the future where there are now no solid forms.
Beautiful. The poet by excellence of democracy. The best American poet. He was also a volunteer nurse for the Union during the Civil War, and he was a teacher like me. Of course, he must have been much better, but God, I love Walt Whitman. So Walt Whitman, if you can hear this from heaven, I love you. And happy birthday. Thank you, guys.